guys, this is part 2 of the Introduction to Indices videos. In the last one I showed you what they're about, and we looked at rules 1 and 2 of the 5 rules that you'll need to know for your exam. So if you haven't seen that, just go back and give it a watch. I put the link in the description below, so go have a look at that and you'll understand what's going on. So in this video I'm going to look at rules 3, 4 and 5. So yeah, let's crack on. Rules 3 and 4 is probably best if I sort of derive them through demonstration so you can see how and why they work. So let's see, if I write down, again I'm going to use 2's just because they're very easy, very simple. I'm going to write down 2 to the power of 4, 2 to the power of 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay? Now, 2 to the 4 is equal to 16, 2 to the 3 is 8, 2 squared is 4, 2 to the power of 1 is just 2. So what are we doing? If we go down a step, if we decrease the index by 1, okay, minus 1 there, on this side we are dividing by 2, okay? So that makes sense, because if the index tells us how many of the base we're multiplying together, then we're just multiplying by 1 less 2. So as we go down, we're dividing by 2, okay? So divide by 2, divide by 2. Now, what do we do when we get to 2 to the power of 0? 2 to the power of 0 isn't something we've looked at yet. So, how do we deal with that? It's just exactly the same rule. So, again, we've just dropped the index by 1. So, we have to divide by 2. Okay? So, what's 2 divided by 2? Is 1. Now, you'll probably see that this will work with any number that we use as the base. So, 10. If we go 10 to the power of 2 is 100, 10 to the power of 1, we've dropped the index, we divide by 10, we've got 10, and then we've got 10 to the 0, we divide by 10 again, and we get 1, okay? So any number you use, anything to the power of 0 is always equal to 1, okay? So that's rule 3 here. Anything to the power of 0 always equals 1, okay? And that's just something that you'll need to remember, and it'll become second nature. So whenever you see that, it's always equal to 1. Okay. And now I'm going to show you 4 the same way. So we're just going to drop the index down one more again. So minus 1, down one more, minus 2, down one more, minus 3. So again, we've just dropped the index by 1, so we just divide by the base again. So we divide by 2 again, and we get 1 over 2, 1 half. We divide by 2 again as we drop the index, and we get 1 over 4, or a quarter. Again, we get 1 over 8. Now, one thing you might notice is we can actually pair these terms up. And what do we see? Well, we see that the 2 to the power of the positive index, so for example 2 to the power of positive 3, we can match with 2 to the power of negative 3, and the answers are the reciprocal of each other. They're 1 over each other, okay? So 2 to the power of 3 is 8, 2 to the power of negative 3 is 1 over 8, okay? 2 squared is 4, 2 to the power of negative 2 is 1 over 4, okay? And that's the rule number 4, quite simply, that a to the power of b, a to the power of minus b, sorry, is equal to 1 over a to the power of positive b, okay? So that's just 3 and 4, rules 3 and 4 there, demonstrated why that's the case, okay? So now we can, actually the same as we did before, just go through these questions, and if you want to pause the video, that's fine, and you can have a go, and then I'll go through them afterwards and you can see how you did and where you went wrong, if you go wrong anywhere. So let's start with this first one. It's a very simple one, 18 to the power of negative 1, okay? So we're looking at a base to a negative index, or a negative power, so we're looking at rule 4. So 18 to the power of minus 1, we've got a to the power of minus b is equal to 1 over a to the positive b. So it's just 1 over 18 to the positive 1. And as we discussed in the last video, a number to the power of 1 is just the same as the number itself, so 1 over 18. Okay. Now, we're using the exact same thing for this next one, s to the minus 1. It's just 1 over s to the power of positive 1, okay, according to our rule number 4, which is equal to 1 over s. Okay, so they're two very simple ones, and that's just what we call the reciprocal. So anything to the power of minus 1 is just 1 over that thing. Okay. So now we've got p to the minus 3. Again, it's a negative power, so it's 1 over p, 1 over the same base, as we see in this rule, to the power of the positive version of that index. So that's to the power of 3. Okay. So that's just how we leave that there. That's done. That's our answer for that one. Now, this one, you've got to be careful, and you may have made the mistake last time, but when you try the questions, this to the power of 0 only applies to the s. It doesn't apply to the 8, okay? If it was written 8s to the power of 0, then it would apply to both, but as it stands, it only applies to the s, okay? And what does this mean? Well, we know that according to rule 3, anything to the power of 0 is equal to 1, so the s to the power of 0 equals 1, so we've got 8 times 1, which is just equal to 8, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Now, 4t to the minus 2, again, exactly the same thing. The power of minus 2 only applies to the t, it doesn't apply to the 4. So we've got 4 multiplied by, now what's t to the minus 2? Well, according to rule number 4, it's 1 over t to the positive 2, 1 over t squared, okay? And we can just simplify that by putting 4 over t squared. So that's our answer for that one. And the final question here is 2p to the minus 1. Now in this case, it's different from these top two, different from these two, okay, in the sense that the minus 1, power of minus 1 applies to both things in the bracket. Okay, so we can do them separately. So what's 2 to the power of minus 1? Well, actually, if I write it out, just so we can see what we're doing, that is equal to 2 to the power of minus 1 multiplied by p to the power of minus 1, okay? And what does this mean? Well, what's 2 to the power of minus 1? Well, again, according to rule 4, it's just 1 over 2 to the positive 1, or 1 over 2, okay? And we multiply that by p to the minus 1, which again is just 1 over p to the positive 1, or 1 over p. So we just have, if we multiply these fractions together, 1 over 2p. And that's our final answer for that. So, one thing I haven't put in the questions is just what you do if you have an actual number in there. So, for example, if we put 3 in, if we put is p equals 3 into here, so the question is, what does 3 to the power of minus 3 equal? Okay, so we know it's 3 to the power of minus 3, which means it's equal to 1 over 3 to the positive 3, which equals 1 over 27. Okay, so that's just an example of a question with an actual number in there. Great, so hopefully that makes sense, and I'm going to move on to rule number 5. And rule number 5 is a very simple rule, very easy to remember, and it's just that a to the power of b, okay, all to the power of c is equal to a to the power of b c, or a to the power of b times c, okay? So that's rule 5 there, and that's the last rule that you have to remember. Again, these rules will become very second nature to you once you use them a few times, so you won't really need to memorize them, hopefully. But so let's give these questions a go. Again, pause the video if you want and give them a crack. So we've got 2 to the power of 3 to the power of 2. This is one thing you've got to look out for. That does not equal 2 to the power of 3 to the power of 2. Okay, so that's not 2 to the power of 9. Okay, it's not 2 to the power of 3 squared. That's not the case. Okay, that's one thing you've got to make sure. That's one of the most common errors of this rule. Okay, so 2 to the power of 3, all to the power of 2, just equal, according to our rule, 2, the same base, 2 to the power of 3 times 2, which is 6, 2 to the power of 6. Okay. Next rule, exactly the same thing. We've got s to the power, so s the same base to the power of -1 multiplied by -2, which 2 minuses gives a positive, is 2 squared. Okay. Next one, now again, as in the last rules, we've got this applies to both things in the bracket. Okay, so we've got 4 to the power of 3 multiplied by p to the power of -3 to the power of 3. Okay, so this is, again, now we've got it in that form, just the same form as the rule, so it's just 4 to the power of 3 multiplied by p to the power of, and we multiply the indices together, so through p to the power of -9. Okay, so that's 64p to the -9. Okay, and last but not least, just a bit of a red herring, because the 0 applies to both things in the bracket. That's 15 to the power of 0, multiplied by t to the power of 4 to the power of 0. And as you can see from rule 4, I think it was, anything to the power of 0 is just 1. So you've just got 1, 15 to the power of 0, 1, multiplied by, and it doesn't even matter, we don't have to apply the rule to this because anything to the power of 0 is 1. So it's just 15 to the power of 0 is 1, multiplied t to the 4 to the power of 0 is 1, just get 1 times 1. So 1 is just the answer to that question. Okay, so that's all the rules you need to know. It's not too hard, it's just a bit of practice. So if you visit scribbleteach.co.uk, we've got more question papers and solutions and exercises that you can go through to help yourself practice these rules. So again, any questions, just pop them in the comments below and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. See you next time.